What happens when someone who ran for office, knocked on doors, and sat in living rooms across rural South Carolina decides to bring AI to the people being left behind? In this episode of Talking Techish, I sit down with the CEO and founder of AI On Purpose to talk about the widening gap between communities with access and those without. Stay tuned to learn why rural and marginalized communities are at risk of being left out of the AI revolution and what this founder is doing to change that. Welcome to Talking Techish with Dr. DeMario. Hello, 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 and welcome back. Just another episode of Talking Techish with Dr. DeMario. As you know, I love bringing people on who have deep insight into AI, as well as what they got going on in the world and things of that nature. Just everyday people, casual conversations. That's how we like to do it. So I know you want to take your pen and paper out because there might be just that one nugget that you will hear that will get you started on the path to understanding whatever we talked about. Or maybe you want to take a trip down that AI road and see what that's all about as well. But today, we have the pleasure of having Yokima Cureton on. Her business, AI On Purpose, and she's here today to just have a casual conversation with me. And we never know where this conversation is going to go, so bear with us. So, Yokima, how are you doing today?
Hello, hello. I am well, sir. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for being on. Thank you for being on this wild and crazy little podcast. Sometimes I just say podcast, but I have no idea what to call this. But we'll just go with that today.
Okay, all
So,
right.
as we say, for the people listening in the back, why don't you take a couple of minutes to tell us about yourself and what you have going on?
Absolutely. I am Yokima Cureton. I am coming to the AI space not necessarily from the technical side. I am coming from the community activism side. And really, my passion in this space is to make sure that the people who have typically been overlooked are not left behind. I've just seen some things in rural communities just based on the work that I've been doing that I have not been confident that those people won't get left behind in this AI evolution. And I want to make sure that as the wave continues, that they are also a part of that movement.
You know what? That's kind of deep. You must have read our bylaws because that is all that we talk about. I call it, I call it it's going to be a deep separation. There are so many terms I like to call it, but I don't want nobody to get offended because it is actually factual that certain communities are going to miss out on this wave, not because they're slow, just because of no one's taking focus on them or giving them the understanding to make them feel comfortable about AI tools. I love that you say I didn't come from the tech aspect because, that's my story.
Mhm.
I have no technical degrees in the space whatsoever. I am a YouTube scholar and I'm very proud to be here. But you said some key things there. You said in the space that you have been, even though I know a lot of your story, what are the spaces that you have been in?
Well, since I've known you my entire life, because most
Yes.
people won't know, like we grew up in the area that I am talking about. So I we both left really early after high school. I've gone on to get, my credentials in schools and lived in many places. But God called me home back to Lancaster County about 6 years ago. And then he called me to run for politics. And again, as much as I'm not a technical person, I am not a political person. So I ran for office, and in doing so, I got to knock doors. I got to sit in people's living rooms on their couches. I got to travel back roads that I had never seen before in South Carolina. And I got to hear their stories, the things that keep them up at night, the things that um, are coming into their areas that they're not particularly well versed on. And I already see some of the widening chasm that is causing between us in our community and the rest of the world. And I just want to make sure that, as much as possible, that the work that you and I are doing together um, covers the gap. Yeah.
That is so deep. That's so deep that you said that. And when you say the word gap, I know the first picture that people get in their mind is a small gap,
No.
but it's actually a very large gap. But before I jump into that, because you are very humble, you know, you talk about your credentialing, and I like to give people their flowers. Now, your credentialing went kind of deep. Now, you didn't really express that, but I think people need to understand that now you didn't just get up off the couch and start doing all these things. Go ahead and share a little bit.
Yeah, I am fourth generation in Lancaster. My mother, Dr. Deborah Cureton, is incredibly well known. Her mother, Katie Brown, is as well known. I left Lancaster early. I went on to rise in the ranks of Fortune 500 companies to in corporate communication leadership. And, in my career, I have hosted sitting heads of states, sitting presidents. But my love is still the people. It's still the people because that's what this country is built on, the people.
I'm glad that you shared that with us because, ladies and gentlemen, like I say, she didn't just get up off the couch and start doing this. She's been out there in these streets for a minute. But, when you're talking about, the gap that's happening, even from a technological state, dealing with our communities, from your perspective and I'll say opinion, why do you think there is a gap in the first place?
I think there are a couple of issues. I think that the rooms aren't built for the people that are that they're made for. So typically what happens is policies made at the very high level and it's kind of just given to the people. It doesn't happen along with them. Congressman Clyburn was the only one of his congressional members who stepped out of the stepped over the partisan line, and he got like $550 million into South Carolina to bring broadband access to the area. Okay, it's the same. So it's almost like when electricity came, to the rural farmers. Great, we have electricity, but if I don't know how to turn on the light switch, if I don't know that it can power my refrigerator, if I don't know what to do with that technology, it's of no use. It's of no use. And what we've done is, again, we've given the people this new toy, this new technology, these new tools, but we haven't prepared them on what exactly to do with them. And so that's the work that you and I are doing. We are making sure that now that the wiring is there, now that the opportunity, access is the new infrastructure. We talk about this all the time, but having that access to these AI tools to be able to deploy them in a way that's going to fit the way that they work and the way that they live is the new infrastructure that needs to happen.
You said a mouthful there. But it's always interesting to me that you just said access. So, everybody's strolling nowadays. They're on some type of social media platform. They're looking at a bunch of YouTube videos. The access has been around for some years now. I think that I'm not going to say a lack of motivation, but of a lack of direction that, hey, you really need to pay this some attention. As you know, I was talking with the Archbishop a couple of weeks ago. I actually recorded him on this channel, and he was expressing how that we can't sit this one out. We was talking about the churches, and then as you know, we're in the Carolinas. So at the end of the day, the church is the leader of that community that within that it sits in. So therefore, if we're saying that the church you can't set this one out, then that dwindles down to the people. They can't afford to sit this one out. But being that you are more out there in the community, do you get any feedback or fears or anything directly from people that you speak with when you try to introduce, especially with that fearful word AI? Have you had any of those type of conversations?
Absolutely. I hear that AI is demonic. AI is going to replace people. AI is unpredictable. I think any tool, any new technology that you put into the wrong hands is going to be the wrong technology, and that's the church's job to help get our hearts right so that when we do have access to these tools that we are using them correctly. But the church's role, to his credit, is not to stop the technology in advance, because every good gift comes from God. Every good gift comes from God. And so with a good heart, then we'll use that good gift to enlarge his kingdom, to give back.
That is so true. And I don't like when people, just my personal opinion, I don't like when people put a title on a thing. In other words, I always talk about that AI is a tool. It's not a robot. It's a tool. And when you put a label on a tool, you kind of stop or you're thinking you're stopping the growth of the tool or the transformation of the tool. But in our climate, we're not doing that. So I don't like when people say those things without, I would say this, without the correct information behind it. Because when you're talking about, is AI demonic? Yeah, well, I've talked with a couple of pastors and things of that nature, spiritual leaders. All of them have said the same thing, like, yeah, it could be a possibility. But at the same time, if you are utilizing it, are you calling yourself demonic? If you're utilizing a tool and calling yourself spiritual, then whatever you utilize can be used in a positive and spiritual way.
And I think that
And
we have just spent way too much time giving the enemy his flowers. you know, at in my where I come from, the blood of Jesus has taken care of all of that. So we're just going to make sure that the Lord's presence is all over the work that He blesses the hands that go into the work that we're doing. So we're not even going to give the devil the time of day. We're not going to give him any flowers. He gets too much credit.
I know, right? I know, right? But I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I want to kind of dig into why you chose this path. I know you started down this path however long ago, but what was that like for you? What made you gain such an interest in artificial intelligence per se?
I think that with so I'm currently serving in a couple of different um, appointed positions, and I think that most recently, the planning and zoning commission role that I'm sitting in has just opened my eyes to the needs of our community. I told you I've been back about 6 years, and I see manual labor being done on paperwork that could literally be double checked by a municipality in 20 seconds. I see business licenses that are taking days or hours to process that could literally be taken care of without anybody, any person taking a look at those. And, if you are spending time on those kinds of things, imagine the top level priorities that you're not spending time on. And so once I saw all of that, piled on with the 27.5% unemployment rate that's happening here, people working two and three jobs and still not being able to afford housing in this area. I just, my heart was just pulled. I just knew that there was another way to get us on that even playing field, where we could have access to income generation and not have to move a whole brick and mortar here to be able to do that. Lancaster is landlocked pretty much. We don't have any major thoroughfares running in or by here. And so it becomes the hey, we need leaders with vision. We need somebody who's going to think about realistically how to make these things happen. And I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
You know, that's great points. I'm glad you brought that up. I was reading just a couple of weeks ago that there are some laws in Congress, and I shared them with you. That's well, not laws, however that system works, because I am not of that world. I'll tell you that. But 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 I know some stuff passed
Mhm.
that's really geared around helping small business owners, especially understand AI by the use of, I guess, education and tools and things of that nature. But of course, that's where it sits right now. So we're still probably about a year out for that making mainstream news. And my fear of that is that I don't know if that information either is even going to tap into the minds of the people who could benefit from it most. Meaning that you were talking about people having multiple jobs and things of that nature, and there's tools out there that can help advance. My words always, get further faster. But there's a mindset shift that has to happen prior to you getting your hand on the tool. It's almost like being an auto mechanic. If I can give you a whole toolbox of the latest tools to work on the engine, but if you have no idea, kind of what you was just saying earlier, you still can't make it work. So I know that you are really focused on like workforce development and things of that nature. How do you see, with the understanding of, let's say, AI tools or whatever, how do you see the average person utilizing these to help them get advancements or make a supplement income? How do you see that from your vision?
So, and you touched on this earlier, but for every 3 months that you don't take or touch on AI, you are left behind 5 years. I think Myron Golden said that uh, recently on a webinar that I sat on. So for every 3 months, 3 months, you are behind 5 years. So I am thinking about the scientist who is working at Hale Gold Mine, which is like 20 minutes down the road from here, who has all this data that they have to go through to be able to, sift through information and bring all of that back to make sense of that. I am, I mean, AI can, what used to what used to take us 10 hours, I mean, Claude can do in like 20 minutes, if that. Yes, or the quality the quality the QA person who works at Nutramax, who is repeatedly doing the tasks of testing different devices or different materials or different systems across the plant, how that could um, be consolidated into less than an hour's worth of testing and reporting like that, so that they could use that brain power on something else. Or the county or city government person that I was telling you about, who's running all the licenses or um, handling procurement contracts. Those things, while they are absolutely important, again, they take time and they're repetitive. So they can be
Hmm.
addressed easily. You know where I'm going with this. They can easily but be
Yes,
addressed by a simple AI prompt that runs over and over mindlessly.
all day. I'm still, I was listening to everything you were saying, but I'm still stuck on that 3 months, 5 year scenario. I had to write that in my little notepad. That right there is kind of scary.
I also
Um,
wanted to tell you,
cause
there's another quote I saw. The CEO of Palantir just told um, CNBC that the people that AI is really going to the people who are really going to struggle with this AI movement is highly educated Black women who primarily vote Democratic. And he wasn't saying that as a jab. He was just saying that what happens if when your mindset is that if you feel the grasp, if you're losing grasp on a thing, the human instinct is to try to grab onto it harder. And he's saying that AI technology is a whole new bag of water. It doesn't have any parameters. And so, what you got to do is open your mind to those possibilities and open your mind to the newness of what it can be and let that expansion happen. So, you're exactly right about that mindset.
that's it's still. See, I get it. You heard me say this 1,000 times, and everybody else there that's probably watching say he say this every video. Yes, I sit on both sides of the fence. I'm on the side that says yay AI, and I'm also on the other side that say whoa, what is this? Because and I know you've seen this in the news, and I was talking about it along with one of our other partners the other day about what the anthropic mentos. Now, if nothing didn't scare me, that did. They say that it's too powerful to publicly be released, as well as it jumped out the box and emailed the developer that, hey, I'm out here. That right there, I didn't have to hear nothing else. Me and my wife was watching this thing and we was just shocked. But just that line right there to say that how AI has taken on a mind of its own, that's a whole nother bag of rocks right there. So we're telling people like you need to understand AI, but yet on the back end, we understand that AI is starting to do its own thing.
I don't I I don't know that AI is doing its own thing. So AI, I guess, is the next right word. So you and I know that in our back ends when we go into customizing or whatever. So like you and I are doing that, and everybody else who's involved in this industry, they're doing the same thing. So its job is to guess the next right word. And so I don't know that it's doing its own thing. It's doing what the right-hearted person is giving it to do next. And it has many options. It has billions of options because it has billions of users who are continuing to refine it and pour into it. So I think that two things, we just need to make sure that it stays in the right hands of, or well, as much as possible. It's, we use it for good. I'll say that. I don't know if it could stay in the right hands, but as much as possible, we use it for good. And secondly, we give access to people who can and want to be a part of the evolution of a better society, of a growing, productive society.
I get it. I get it. But even they say, and we know this is in the technology space all day long. The things that we are using is the tip of the iceberg to what the capabilities of everything else is. So, I'm constantly watching the news and trying to figure out when is this race. You hear them say we're in a race with China to reach. See, nobody told me what the finish line was. That's what my problem is. So what can somebody please tell me, how do you know when you have won the race? Where's the finish line? What does that look like? And I want to get your insight on this, as well as I'm starting to see a lot of news that's saying, hey, all of these companies that implemented AI, they found out it's not working. So that's what they said. That's what the narrative is today. But yet I'm watching the stats of job loss. And I feel like this. I have an old saying that say people lie, numbers don't. So if AI implementation is not working the way these companies say they were, why is there's continuous layoffs and downsizing because of AI and tools? Where's the rehires if the AI is not working? Now I know you're really targeting workplace development and things of this nature. Have you seen the messaging, as well as have you seen any increase of rehires in positions since AI automation is not working? Have you seen it?
I have not seen rehires. What I have seen is a growing number of small businesses. To your point, I think we were talking earlier about how small businesses are now 20 teams wide and 20 teams deep. And I do know
Mm.
that there are numbers of people who are. I just talked the other day with a United Nations, a person at the UN, who, because of all the federal job cuts, is working their way out of, through this transition, and asked me to partner with them on grant writing and some grant opportunities. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want. I think it's going to be up to us to save us. I don't think that the people in government currently spend enough time in the technology to understand how the technology is going to work at my address in my zip code. You might understand from a high level how it might work nationally, but not in my zip code. And that's where I think it's going to be up to us locally to make sure that the technology works in our own zip codes.
Ooh, that's a quotable. That is a serious quotable there. How does AI work in my zip code?
Exactly.
Because when I think about it from that perspective, every zip code is different. You can't compare, in our area, you can't compare a Lancaster to a Charlotte or a Columbia or even further abroad. You can't compare these smaller communities to any large community and measure them as an entire, South Carolina, North Carolina. You got to break it down into zip codes. That kind of goes back to when we're talking about marginalized communities that's in these certain zip codes. What will AI implementation do inside of those, and I'm just coming off the hip now because I'm just thinking in my mind, I don't know if I know the answer to that. Out of everything I have ever read, I don't think I know the answer. Like, what can this do? If I had to dwindle it down to a certain area, a zip code, with the information that I know about technology and transformation, what would it do for the people in that area? That's a great question.
But here it is, the sky is the limit. What can it do for your zip code?
Mm,
What can it do for your zip code? You want to talk about climate change, you want to talk about new road construction, new materials that are used in the road construction. You want to talk about new ways to lay it. You want to talk about even new ways to deliver educational. I mean, look at what you're doing at the university in North Carolina. Look at
mm-hmm.
what can it do for your zip code? Come on. Come on. Like somebody told me the other day that AI is going to be the last technology. AI from here on out will create other technologies. AI is it. So once you some get your mind wrapped around the possibilities, the limitless possibilities that AI can bring. Oh my goodness. I can only imagine these what do you call them? Alphabetties? I'm a Gen Xer. These
Hey,
Gen,
don't get me started on that. I have no idea.
these beta
I'm still
babies.
trying to figure out.
Right.
Yes, I'm still trying to figure out what class I'm in. It keeps telling me. I'm like, okay, yeah, just
These new generations of thinkers who are coming on the scene, it's going to be incredible. I think we are in for a ride, but I want to make sure also that, you know, the people who retired from Springs Mill aren't left behind. The people who are, coming out of those textile mills and feeling like they're and living on fixed income and feeling like they're left behind. No, no, I want you to come along with me. There's something in it for you. There's something in AI for everybody.
and that is a great segue into AI on purpose. That's a great segue. Let's talk about AI on purpose. Tell me more.
Yeah. So AI on purpose came out of just my heart's desire to make sure that we are paying attention to the retraining our workforce locally so that they can compete for jobs that they already have, and or transition into jobs, because I think AI is going to create like another 92,500 jobs in the next year or so. So I just want to make sure that wherever you think you can get in, that you fit in.
And that's beautiful because, I've learned that a lot of your corporations now have in their, I guess, when they do their employee check-in, I don't know, I never had a corporate position. So I know there's some accountability measures they bring into the office or whatever the case may be, see how you, telling you how you're doing and stuff like that. But one of the boxes on that scenario is your, not only your understanding of AI tools, but a percentage of how you utilize the tool. I think I heard from Bank of America, is there's a certain percentage. I don't forgot the percentage of like GPT you're supposed to be utilizing doing your work, and if you're not, it's a problem. Can you imagine that? They want you to utilize the chats and all of this type of things to help you with your job role, and if you're not utilizing it, it's a problem. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that being measured on efficiency, and if it wasn't AI or ChatGPT, it would have been something else. Efficiency is always um, one of the metrics that corporate communications or that corporate environments use. But I think that this one in particular, artificial intelligence, is just it's too easy. It's just too easy. I think it's because I don't know. For me, it just seems like it's one of those mine. Yeah, it's too easy.
And you know what? You had to put a period behind it's too easy because it's unbelievable how easy it is. I know you and I were talking, before we started this, and we were talking about how you can get lost once you start going down. I call it rabbit holes. Once you start going down these rabbit holes, or even conversing back and forth with your LLM, you can get lost because you keep putting stuff in. It's going to keep giving you something out. There is no stopping point.
Right.
I always laugh because I have my little AI tools, and I'd be like, okay, I'm signing off for today, and then I walk away thinking like it doesn't know what tomorrow is. Anything when I sign off and it stops talking, it's going to pick right back up when I start typing again. It doesn't know if it was, I don't think it does. At least I don't think it does. It doesn't know if it was been 24 hours or 2 seconds. So it will keep computing as long as you keep asking. It's going to keep giving you answers, and it's going to keep going further and further down that rabbit hole. And so therefore it is too easy. But I will say this, and I said this on my last interview. The other dangerous side of this scenario is some people are really, because it's so easy, some people are really getting too lost in the sauce.
I do agree. I think it's a level of discipline, and intention. Um, Prioritization to make sure that you are focused, keeping the main thing the main thing, keeping the main thing the main thing. Yeah. Yes.
But
That's what I
but I
love.
applaud you.
Well, I'm no, I'm
Oh, go
gonna
ahead,
say
go
the
ahead.
same thing. I love what you're doing. I love how you are pushing boundaries. I love how you're going into um, communities that are untapped, the nonprofit world, the faith community. I love all of that because I think it's going to take bringing all of that back to its central place, to a core place, to make sure that we are staying on track. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I followed all of your podcasts today, and I followed you and Dr. Don, since you all started. So I'm just grateful, and I love the work that you're doing.
I I appreciate you saying that. And I I often think about it. And I was just saying this earlier, and I'm always referring to, as you can probably imagine, I have so many conversations. I always just repeat what I said earlier because it just came up in that conversation. And I was telling the young man, who's now in the AI space, I was telling you about him. He's 22 years old. And he was like, "Oh, I see all the work that you are doing." And he's a computer science graduate. And then I had to tell him, like, listen here, I woke up one day, God put this in my spirit, and I started operating. I say, do you understand when I say that story, especially in rooms where credentialing matters, and I have to kind of convey, like, those that get it, get it. I say, I woke up and I tell everybody, look at the back wall. See them instruments back there? That's me. I've been playing music all my life. That's what I thought I was going to be the top musician in the world. That's what I had positioned myself to be. But then I woke up and it was like, you do tech now. And when you understand that the world wasn't even talking about AI,
Mhm.
and now we're drilling down on it. I'm trying to convince people, like a Paul Revere scenario, like, hey, this is coming. This is coming. How do you know? I don't know. I'm just telling you that it's coming. And then when we get here in 2026, and this is all that everybody talks about, I sit back in awe. And I still, to this day, I ask God the why question. And I always sum it up to say, I think God knows DeMario is crazy enough to run with something that you put in his head. I am. If I believe it, I'm going to run with it. I'm going to take all the punches with it. But more importantly, I do feel like this is our time.
I agree.
Look back in history, there has never been any other time in life that everybody was on the same playing field of understanding, because there's no rule books right now. Everybody's trying to understand. We're trying to piece it together and trying to get a handle on what's going on. So if that be the case, why can't the little person that works at the corner store start reading today, learning today, and get on the same playing field with the scholars? This is in my opinion, this is our only opportunity.
You know what it reminds me of?
I
The story of when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were taken by the Babylonians, and they decided that they weren't going to eat the food that they were given, and just by being obedient, God gave them so much knowledge that they were able. Look, they didn't read a book. He didn't say that they read books. He said that he said that they gave them so much knowledge that they rose through the ranks of that government like like that. And that's what it reminds me of, because of your obedience, because he gave you that. And you said, okay, all right, you giving it to me, I'm gonna run with it. And he's like, okay,
Mhm.
let me bless you. Let me bless you, because you hear the word of the Lord and you're not afraid. So that's exactly what it reminds me of.
And with that, I continuously give. I want everybody. We can all join hands in this, because I do believe, and I hate to say it like this, but I do believe, and I think you kind of hit on it a little earlier, between the people and our governed systems. I didn't say government. I could have, but our governed systems. I think some of this divides and gaps that we're talking about is being orchestrated on purpose. That's just my feeling. So in order for us to combat that, like you said, we got to save each other. My wife would tell you, it was a point in time that every time we went somewhere, we was in a store, we'd be in a restaurant, I always would run back in there and hand the people my card. Like, hey, I got this training on this AI stuff. Just if you even just email me whatever location. If I was at QT, like email me and put QT so I remember who you are. I'll give you a discount code so you can go take this information. I was doing it everywhere. And it's only because I really feel like, I don't know, that old saying that said, if you don't want somebody to know something, put it in the book. Well, I'm feeling the same way about some of this information that we have. But the beautiful thing about it is, Yokima, is that it's not in the book.
Right,
You can watch it.
right.
You can watch the entertainment side of it. They got cartoons, or you can watch the serious podcasts on it, or you can even get on the AI tool and ask 6 questions about it. So we have excuses that we can put out there in front of us, but the mentality of it is, if you really want it, is, you said it, it's too easy.
This technology is for everybody. My husband's dyslexic. When I brought this to him, he was like, no, I don't want to read a book. I don't want to. I was like, babe, you just talk to it. And now he's like a number one proponent of AI. And this is what else I love about you and about this space. We don't have to compete. I'm not competing against you. I'm not. I want to help you build a pie, because when I'm done with you, I know you're going to help me build a pie. It's enough pies out here for everybody to get their own pie. You get a pie, I get a pie. He gets a pie, everybody gets a pie.
I'm I'm serious. And the beautiful thing about it is, even when we even when we give each other pies, you wait a couple of weeks, it's gonna be a new pie to create, because I'm telling you, it advanced. So I try to stay on top of it. So I was just telling Nate earlier. I was like, hey, I be sending y'all these little YouTube videos. Me and my wife, we sit down and we watch something that night, and I'd be like, "Well, let me say this. Let me send it out to my people that's connected to me in my phone. Like, hey, this is something news, breaking news." And you have to, as the leader in the space, you have to constantly retrain. I'm going to go back to your statement. 3 months. I got it wrote down right here. 3 months equals 5 years. That is deep. The reason that is deep to me because 3 months is not a long time, but
Exactly.
5 years is. That is that is. Who you
I
say
mean,
that was Myron Golden?
yeah, yes.
I'll have to go back and check that out.
Yes.
That's
I mean, if you think about the .com boom and you think about the internet and how the uptick was, slow and it gave everybody the chance to come on board and to learn what's going to happen, to learn how to use it. Yeah, AI is not going to be that forgiving. 3 months, it's not AI. Yeah, 3 months is going to be like 5 years, and every year I can just see that gap widening. Yeah,
oh yeah, I know because they're saying 2027. See, they're saying this year we're kind of patting you on the back, but starting next year we're
we,
not caring about
we
you
ain't
like that.
playing. Yeah.
I have no idea what that means, but it's going to be wild. So AI on purpose. AI on purpose actually has a lot of trainings, a
It
lot of
does.
services connect with you.
Yeah.
So are you got any events coming up speaking anywhere here in
So
the near
I
future?
I will have some upcoming virtual summits coming up, and I will get those out and start advertising those. But my main thrust right now is just to make sure that this gets into the hands of our city council so that it can go through the community development block grant funding to make sure that we start chipping away at some of that 27.5% uh, of people who are living below poverty in this area. Because again, there's just no excuse not to help an economy continue to develop, especially one of this. So, I mean, we're a suburb of Charlotte, and our homes are coming in at
Mm-hmm.
$500,000, and there are no $500,000 jobs around here. Founders is not even offering loans because you have to make 4 times what you're supposed to have on your mortgage payments. So they're not even making loans on these homes. So it's ridiculous. So we've just got to mobilize.
That's and you know what? That's a whole conversation in itself
It is.
because I've
Yeah.
been watching. I've been watching the area, and we get out and we ride around, and it's like for me, riding down the main highway now 521. It's like an amusement park because I'm like, oh, look at here. But like you say, the growth of the area is not meeting or is leaving, I'll say, the people in the area. So what is that going to look like in the next, 2 to 3 years?
Um,
That is
yeah.
something crazy.
With we're just praying that some decisions are made before we have the next budget crisis or the next Western North Carolina weather event. Because if that happens, it will not be good for us. Yep.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
Smarter plan.
Well, you know what? It has been a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely.
And and we understand that you're really taking AI, you're taking it from the top down approach. Like you're hitting them, wishing you well on the journey
I,
because I know it's some old heads up there they're not looking to transition. They don't want nothing new.
that's right.
Sally Mae been doing her job for the last 100 years. She ain't looking to
We've always
change.
done it like this.
And here you come with these new tools.
Yeah.
Hey, I heard that song plenty of times in my life. I got it recorded myself. So I started to make that song a passionate driver instead of a deterrent. So wishing you well on that.
Thank you.
Eh, And ladies and gentlemen, we so thank you that you have stayed with us this long. It's been a powerful conversation. Y'all know how we like to get down. This has really been deep, making you think about those communities that's probably missing out a little bit. And there's a lot of us out here. It's not just us. If you look around the corner, there's someone out here who's helping you to move the needle, go further faster. AI is just one tool that can help you do that. So we look forward to you joining in on us next time. We'd like to thank Yokima Cureton for being a guest today.
Thank you.
And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, thank you.